What's your first impulse? If your answer is run to the grocery store, you're likely to find chaos and plenty of empty shelves. So how do you avoid this? Well, it's simple. You use today to make a plan, to prepare for things that may happen. It's a hurricane, earthquake, blizzard, or even social unrest, especially in today's political environment. The practical place to start is by storing up food in your home. And I use my pizza supply for my food storage.
In the Marine.
If you don't have an emergency food supply, it's time to do so. Here's a great item that makes it really simple. A 2-week...
Danielle begged him not to. But Madsen said the Army would never deploy an old man like me. Whitman said soon he would learn he was being sent to Afghanistan. He told Danielle, now listen, I've got the shoulder thing, and I can get out of it because I told you I would protect you, and I told you I would be here for you. And I'm telling you, just say the word, and I'll stay, Whitman said. She simply asked him, what do you want to do? Why do you want to go? And his response would not surprise you. He said, I want to make sure these kids come home. I want to make sure the car behind me comes home. I want to make sure my own kids and my community, my family, can come home. And Madsen never made a promise he couldn't keep. Today's show is dedicated to Master Patrol Officer Jesse Madsen. It is also dedicated to all of the brave men and women out there that serve as first responders, be they law enforcement, firefighters, or emergency services. And is also dedicated to all the brave men and women out there that serve in our military from the birth of this nation through tomorrow and into its wonderful future. We dedicate this song by Todd Allen Herrington, My Name is America. May God bless each and every one. Are you good, Curtis? Curtis? I've just put you in the green room. Hang on a second. Let's bring Grace in. Grace, are you with us? Hi, Grace. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties, but as soon as the song is over, I'll bring you and Curtis on, okay? All right, no problem. All right. Okay, it looks like we're still having some technical difficulties. I don't know why certain things are not happening, and I do apologize. So let's try to see if I can get our acts together here And Curtis, can you hear me? Curtis?
Yes.
Okay, great. We do have contact now. All right. It looks like we're having some problems with the audio coming in from the backup audio. But let's bring on our friend, our new friend to the show, Grace De La Rosa, who's running for school district number 2 out of Duval County in Florida. Good afternoon, Grace. How are you doing?
Hi, good afternoon, Ann.
I have to
Annie, how are you?
apologize. I'm having one of those days. You know, everything was working perfectly fine, and all of a sudden now everything's gone kablooey. So I don't know what the difficulty is. But we've been doing this. I've been doing this for over 10 years. But today's been an unusual one, I have to admit.
Yeah. One of those days where I think the left.
I swear. All right. Well, welcome aboard, Grace, to the Funny Farm here, and we'll see if we can get ourselves in order. You're not, but you happen to be a talented businesswoman, abstract artist, calligraphy, lettering. You've got a holistic wellness consulting firm where you work with executives and different organizations, and now you're running for school board in Duval County. And as a successful businesswoman, why would you want to carve out a large chunk of your time you know this is going to take up from your business to do this?
Well, that's what, somebody else asked me a similar question, and I like to tell them, are you a believer? Because this is when I know that this is God's will. It's when I know that it's not what I wanted to do.
Oh, yeah.
So I thoroughly believe and know that this is where I need to be. It's what was shown to me. I asked how I could be of service, and before I knew it, here I am.
Here you are. And what is it that caused you to want to run, though? Was there something specific that turned around and said, wait a minute, that this isn't right, I need to get on the school board to help right the ship? Is there anything specific?
Yeah, there are several things specific, and then there are things just in general. First of all, just like everybody else, worried about, things having to be forced upon us, one being the mask mandate. That was one of the things that really caught my attention early on because I am a holistic wellness consultant, and I'm quite aware of the fact that our media for some reason is only showing one aspect of an issue to be doing, which is reporting on all sides of an issue. Back in the day when I was a communications major, we actually had fact checkers. There were such things as fact checkers in the room to make sure that what was being written was the truth. And they made sure that all the sources were contacted before they ran the paper or they did the story. Anyway, I digress.
It's funny because we see how the curriculum has changed over the years, and for some reason, history is being rewritten. And right now, I'm getting messages in the chat room that they can only hear one of us. Now, this is really strange because we're basically on the same line, and I don't understand why that is so. So this is...
Well, we all know we're in a spiritual warfare.
Well, I hear Curtis in the background. Can you hear Curtis? You got us going?
Yep, I can hear both of you loud and clearly.
All right. Why don't you ask?
I'm not sure if the chat room can.
That's what I'm trying to find
out.
All
right. I will ask a few questions while you try to sort this out. All right.
Sounds good.
All right. So what do you plan to accomplish once you're on the board?
Well, let's talk realistically. There's only one conservative on the school board now, one of 7. So
wow.
If and hopefully when I am voted into into the position, then there's really nothing that we can actually do but plant seeds, okay? But pave the way and plant seeds, and then making sure that what we as conservatives changed will start coming to fruition when we have a third and a fourth conservative member come on board. Because we all know we can want all we want, but until our voice is heard, we can't get anything to happen because a majority of people have to be involved. So the first thing is we try to set the foundation that's nice and strong. We've got one conservative on there now. If I get on there, that'll be two. We'll need at least two more. Then we can come in unison what needs to be done and actually effectuate that change, right?
Right, and it could be done. Down in Putnam County, about 5 years ago, we had an all-Democrat county commission, and we finally got one on there. And then 2 years later, we got some more. And then the following election cycle, we claimed all the seats as Republican. So it could be done.
Yeah.
A lot of times incrementally. But anyway, what are some of the pressing issues in our educational systems that you think we need to address as a nation? And I'm speaking, you got CRT, which is critical race theory, and you got a lot of other stuff going on.
Right. So you're talking more general terms because this is happening everywhere. Right.
Because it's not just CRT. There's a lot of other things that's going on in the school system that's turning these kids against America.
Well, and I mentioned earlier, majority of people are wanting to mandate mask wearing. Our school here in Duval County starts on Monday. If I were on the board right now, I would vote against the mandate of wearing the mask for the children. And, now if the adults want to wear it while they're serving food to the children, so be it. But it shouldn't be mandated. It should be a choice.
So you don't think the science is there?
If somebody's sick, look, we can talk science all we want, and we know science is not definitive. Sorry, because it's run by humans, right? Things change, and all of a sudden facts change. Look what happened to poor Pluto.
Yeah. And I personally, I don't think the science is there to. I don't think the science is there to require people to wear a mask. For a lot of reasons, this was a level 4 laboratory microorganism that escaped, and they have to wear special gear, clothing, and everything, respirators. And we think that we can just protect ourselves with a piece of cotton. It's just not going to happen.
That's true. That's so true. I mean, what did he say? We don't need, of course we do. We needed to kind of affirm what we know commonsensically. I love the name of the podcast that the talk radio show this is.
Southern Sense.
Southern Sense. It's like, hello, common sense. What happened to common sense? If we look at this disease, this dis-ease, we can see that we don't know what we don't know. Clearly, the people that thought that they were going to try to do the right thing by not spreading it, if they had it, to somebody else, it's all done in good intention to go ahead and get the vaccination. I get that. But at the same time, what happened to all of the wherewithal where everybody is so adamant about the FDA having to pass anything before anything is effective? And then all of a sudden they jump on the bandwagon, oh, I'm scared. Now we're running on fear.
And I think that's what they want us to do. From my research, I find it out more and more that this resurgence involves like 77% of the people that got vaccinated. In other words, they're catching it again.
Oh, without a doubt. So that already shows the ineffectiveness of the vaccine to begin with. And based on how many lies, though. We are being used as guinea pigs. Sorry, not sorry. Because, that's exactly what's happening. We talked about this earlier, about the Tuskegee experiment, Henrietta Lacks experiment. That's not even an experiment. That was a real live thing that happened to her. And then,
that's right. Don't trust government.
And then, wait a minute. We talk about CRT, but we also have to recognize that some things do happen. Look, the Tuskegee population was what? I'm sorry. They were black men in poverty. And then Henrietta Lacks, a black woman in poverty, right? So what are they trying to do? Right. Get rid of, extinguish the people in poverty. A slow but steady genocide that they've been doing for years now. And I'm not going to be quiet about it because this is ridiculous now. We're at a point where I cannot be quiet anymore.
Yeah.
Because there are many other people that know this to be true. The greatest sin of all of our country is to be quiet and know that something sinful is happening and to sit by and watch as bystanders because perhaps they might think that they're too spiritual to speak up.
Well, that's true. And on Henrietta Lacks, for those who don't know, she had a special blood cell that was used in the research of cancer. They were able to use her blood to keep cancer cells alive so they can experiment with it more with other people's blood cells. The cancer and the cells would die, so they didn't have enough time to really study or manipulate things. But what made Henrietta so unique was that her cells lived on and on, so they were able to keep her cells going and reproducing themselves long after she died. But she never benefited from it. She was in agony. There were times they could have helped her, but they didn't. So that's why I say sometimes you just cannot trust government and science. Their motives. So, but anyway, Grace, I was going to ask you: do you think more people need to re-examine their dependency on pharmaceuticals and start looking towards maybe more natural means, natural remedies? What's your thoughts on that?
So glad you asked at this. And you see, this is one of the other reasons why I really, truly know that this is my path, going on the school, becoming a part of the school board to represent and advocate for the children, for our next few generations, our future. And, I'm a mindfulness coach. We stay in the moment, but we also recognize that as the next breath is taken, the next child is born. And so we must understand that everything we say, do, think, feel, touch, taste is not for us, it's for the next generation. It's for us to articulate these experiences we're having right here, right now, just as it is, so that the next generation doesn't have to sidestep these codes that were induced upon us by our past because of the servitude that they had to endure,
Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We can hear you.
I got completely kicked out of my own show.
I see.
Holy moly. Oh, geez. Go ahead, Chris. Please finish for a second.
Now, Grace, was there something you wanted to discuss that you felt was of importance to our listening audience?
Well, I loved the prior question, the question you asked me, and now I forgot, but I loved it because it had everything to do with.
About dependent and relying more on pharmaceutical
Yes.
remedies versus natural remedies.
Yes, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that you just hit the nail on the head with all of the ires of our society. Healthcare. Healthcare and the necessity for them, whoever them may be. Okay, I don't know them, but the powers that be, whatever that is, that we know exists, for us to continue to stay sick enough so that we need to rely on the protocols that our society has placed upon us, has placed upon the people that are already ill, that are already dying, that don't need to be in that position, but they choose to keep us sick enough so that we keep coming back for more, just like addicts. Except they're doing it right in front of us, and we're allowing them to do it when we say we need more medication. Unfortunately, we are human beings, and physiologically, we will get addicted when that transpires. Sugar, huge. Now, let me come back. I'm digressing here. I believe and I know that why we're having these issues is because we have this thing called alternative health care that has been becoming a boon to society, right? A lot of people are starting to go that way, you know. And I believe that some of the doctors from the allopathic pathway to medication, that's regular Western medicine that we do here today with great technology. I love our country for that. Thank you, God. But I believe that what's happening is we as a country, as a society, have taken a bomb to kill an ant when all we really needed was a leaf to side sweep that ant. And that's how I feel about the pharmaceutical corporations and us as human beings trying to make a better life for ourselves and for our children and our grandchildren to come. Yet we don't have the option to do something to better ourselves health-wise. Why am I talking about this? Because without health, we don't have life. So, you know, when everything we touch is already tainted, already, you know, started going deep into debt.
Yeah, it's
with our health.
It's funny because of doing things. You know, I was supposed to go for a pain injection on my back yesterday. And I'm one of those people that I cannot wear a face mask. And I don't know why. For some reason, I get very, very sick. And it's not like because I was making face masks back in 2019 because I saw this coming at us. And I was giving them away, and I carried a bunch of them in my purse all the time. So it wasn't fear of the face mask. It's just something happens where whatever I exhale and breathe back in infects my lungs. So maybe I'm one of those that walks around with a constant virus in my nose. I don't know. And I can't, so I wear a face shield. So I go into the doctor's office with just the face shield on, and she's treated me before. And the next thing I know, it's like, no, you have to wear this mask. I said, explain to you. I can wear it maybe 5 minutes. Any longer than that, then I will start to become ill. No, we can't treat you. I'm like, what? Oh, the new variant is so viral. Grace, do you remember when COVID first broke out, they had this huge counter on all the news stations that was saying how many people died from COVID? Well, once we started defeating the regular COVID-19, and now this Delta variant came out, and you would think with the variant that claimed is so vile that they would have the death clock back up there again, but they don't. And then you ask yourself why. Because they fooled us once, and they're going to do this again a second time, and people are falling for it.
Yeah. Because they're in, I don't know, subconsciously if they're in denial, because it's so much easier to follow a path, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so much easier to follow. Yeah, it is. So,
and
instead
the
of
people
thinking, I'm sorry, I was going to say, just instead of thinking critically and look at everything, they just think, oh, we're sheep. We're going to follow whatever you say, and I believe that you're telling us the truth. That's why we need someone like you out there on school boards, on the local councils, running for state office, running for federal office, people are willing to expose the truth.
Right. But this is what happened. I mean, when people do start exposing the truth, as you say, and that's sad. To expose means it was hidden, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
right.
That's so sad. That's so sad. We didn't even see that. I didn't see that, I didn't see this all coming until it came. It's kind of like it's like an earthquake. Everything was fine until the earth cracked in front of me, and then and then my eyes opened.
Let me see the textbook and look at it and truly decide. We need people to actually get their hands dirty and going in and wading through all the crap our kids are being fed.
Right. And one of the things is, it's not even some of the things that are being fed to them now is not so good. However, let's look at the things that are not being fed to them. That's where we really need to delve into. They're no longer being taught or fed cursive writing. Hello, 50 and 100 years from now, when our future generations come to the past to look at our history, none of them are even going to know what cursive writing is. They're going to look at it like hieroglyphics and have to try to figure out what those beautiful letters stand for. Can you imagine? So that's one of the things that are missing are the foundations that we grew up on. They're called foundations because they work indefinitely. It's like brushing your teeth. That's going to work indefinitely in your favor. And everyone else is around you.
Yes, something preventative would go a long way to encourage better health and better habits. But kids today aren't even being taught social graces. When was the last time you heard a youngster say, yes, ma'am, yes, sir, or thank you?
Yeah.
They don't know anything about manners.
Yeah. And we can call that etiquette 101 and instill that into our children while they're young and make it fun. Make it fun, I was telling, that's one of the things I'd like to bring back, okay? Just foundational stuff, cursive writing early on, okay? Music therapy, music, art. Why? This stimulates the child's brain. It allows their brain to continue to replicate, or not replicate, but regrow new neurons for them to continue to be a lot stronger in their minds, more so than their parents and their grandparents. This is where science comes in. It's so beautiful.
Well,
don't forget about critical thinking.
Well,
right, and that's part of it.
Well, Grace, you have a huge point about teaching the arts. A lot of these arts have been cut out of the schools, allegedly for whatever. Studies showed over the years, starting back in the 60s, starting in the 60s, going up through the 80s, the studies had showed that if kids were taught more of these arts, be it music, be it drawing, or any of those arts, they then show and perform far better in math and science. There's something about the symmetry, the rhythms, that then they can pick up and see patterns form, and which translates into mathematics and science. So,
this is...
Go ahead, Grace.
I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
And this is why I love what we're talking about right now. This is where subjective experiences mesh with objective science, math, whatever that be. However, what's happening in our educational system in general is it has become one-sided. It has become all for the science aspect of it, and cut away take the budget and say that they don't have enough money for the arts. They don't have enough money for, PE, physical education. They don't have time for home economics. These are the very foundations of life. And what's missing is the creative aspect of it. In essence, they've given a lobotomy to our educational system. Okay, what they did was they got rid of the left brain, right, or the right brain, however way you want to look at. Wait, hold on, my bad. So the right brain is the left side. The left brave. So so they cut out the creative portion of that, which would be which side? I'm drawing a blank right now. Anyways, that side of the brain. How could you imagine if we took a poll right now from all of your listeners, yourselves included, CEOs of companies, the 4-star admirals, generals. I'm sorry. Let's ask them if you could go back to when you were 5, 6, 7, 8. What occupation did you really want to do that was so much fun, but somebody said, it doesn't pay much, or you're never going to make it. It's only 1 in a million people can do that can make a living. Everything's tacked on to monetary value, right? So
yeah, that is so true. What we've also done is we've got kids down in front of their smart devices. They're not socially interacting. And I've had one of my deacons from church stop by the house, just say hi, and he was complaining that he's got all these kids on his hands and he's trying to help them find jobs and get into colleges, but they lack the social skills. They know their smart device, but they don't even know how to look someone straight in the eyes and shake their hand. So this is something our schools are relying on these mechanical or these smart devices more than having the kids use pen and paper and read a book, an actual physical paper-bound book.
Yeah. That's the paradox of our technology. Our technology is beautiful. However, when it's starting to creep into a point where we're completely not reliant on it, but dependent on it, then we've lost part of humanity already. And, the very thing that they say is connecting us together is actually separating us. And that's exactly what's been going on in our country. Continual segregation, continual division in all aspects of our lives. All aspects.
Well, then, are they now making a class of victims, which then they can prey upon?
That's the difference, A few of us, we're here and alive, right? I don't think any of us right here are victims. We might have been hurt by systems, but to me, that makes us even stronger. It's kind of like, you get exposed to a virus, you end up warding it off in the future. And the same can be said for some of the ires of our society that's been placed upon us and us learning. That's why we're having this conversation. Why? To make...
these kids are coming up out of the school systems feeling as if they're victims. You're white, you're an oppressor. If you're black, Latino, you're a victim. If you're Native American, you're a victim. They colonized you. They feed you all this pablum. So when they come out, they're angry. So
that's part of that CRT. They're brainwashing our children.
And it's no longer a meritocracy. Everyone gets a passing grade. I just saw in my local school district that they lowered the requirements, the academic requirements, so these kids could play on their sports teams. At a certain point, they had to maintain a certain average. And they said, no, we'll drop you back down so you can practice with the sports teams, but we're not going to let you play in an actual game. You know what's going to happen? That's the next push, right?
So what they're doing is they're leveling, quote unquote, putting everyone all in one basket and making them even. Why? Why are they doing that? Let me tell you why. Because that's how you get rid of individuality. They don't want individual thinking anymore. Why? Because they want complete control of us. If we give up our Second Amendment rights, we are done for. It's the only thing that's keeping us together right now, because they're already wiping away all the people's thoughts from themselves. They're forgetting how to use their common sense. And a part of that, is to keep them in fear. And what did they do? They lashed out that COVID.
Well,
because running out of ammunition to keep us, quote unquote, in line. Because people like you and I and everyone else out there that are listening, that are wanting to be a part of this change, the awakening, we're all right here.
Yeah.
The problem is there's so many people out there that don't even realize what's going on. Those are the ones we need to slowly transition, slowly. They don't even realize what's going on. We can't be upset with them.
Unfortunately, they get into your face and then they threaten and harass you. So it's not a segment of society that we could gladly, walk away from. We have to remember that we have to be ever vigilant and be able to defend ourselves and those that are weaker than us. And that's why we need voices like yours out there on school boards to defend those that are weaker.
Yes, but sometimes, what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought here. Sometimes we have to remember if we're Christian and if we're loving people, we don't have just loving people. We have to remember that if we're trying to pass on the seed of love and kindness, we have to remember those people that are getting in our face are the very people we need to touch the most.
Great.
Yes.
Part.
Go ahead, Curtis.
When I was growing up and going to school, we used to read a Bible verse in the morning and say a prayer before we began the day. Do you see that coming back anytime soon into our schools, or is God out forever in our schools?
I hope so. I hope so, because if people look on my Facebook page, I did sign a petition to bring prayer back in school, and I got so many people not liking that, and I'm wondering why. Well, are you forcing us to put say a certain prayer, this and that? If they took out the word prayer and used the word gratitude, a giving of gratitude, that's what prayer is. A giving of gratitude. And,
now they don't even want to say the Pledge of Allegiance in school anymore.
Yeah, that's the we're going to try to bring back. This is ridiculous now. One of the things that I wanted to touch on, because, what CRT is doing is just continually trying to keep us apart from one another, just like pro-life and pro-choice. Who in their right mind would choose one over the other? No, it's both. We're all pro-life. We're all pro-choice. Otherwise, we wouldn't be living here happy, joyous, and free in America if we didn't want these so-called freedoms, However, I listened in on a podcast that a gentleman from England was speaking, and I really liked his take because, all we know is what we know, which is right around here. I'm thinking, we're a free country, kind of. And then this man from England had said, it's not, the problem is in America is, we think we're free. When you're forced, quote unquote, choices, you're no longer free. It's then been voluntold, right? You get in that voluntold position. Well, you're told to go through, medical, the healthcare system this way. You must do it this way. You know what? Here's the thing. If it's really a healthcare system, why do they not have a checkbox there next to a line that says healthy for that particular patient? Nowhere on any freaking hospital form will there ever be a line that you can see healthy. Nobody talks about this kind of stuff, right?
No. As a matter of fact, a lot of them now have an added form now asking about your mental health, which really bugs the heck out of me. If I'm coming over there to get stitches in my hand because I cut it on a broken piece of glass, well, what do you care about my mental health for? Just stitch it up, bandage it up, give me some antibiotics so it doesn't get infected, and let me go. But no, they have to know what your mental state is. And they keep that on record. So whoever your insurance company is sharing it with the government. So they know every little bit about you, and it drives me buggy. If I'm going in for a runny nose, what the heck do you care about my mental health? Make my nose stop running. But no, you're right. They're taking choice away and they're giving us the lesser of two evils.
That's right. That's right. And so, part of holistic wellness is when I work with my clients, my philosophy is when you work with me, I'm going to make sure to the best of my ability that I'm going to give you all the tools you need so you won't need to come back to me, unlike the healthcare system. In fact, the next time you call me, you're not going to need me, but you're going to want me. And that's where I always want to be with people, I don't need you. I want you. It's a beautiful freedom that one has, Even if we did live in a fault-free society, we have the freedom in our mind. It's all about perception and how we choose to live our life and how we choose to see things. So, that's where my mind.
Just before we went time to go on air, President Biden was doing his speech today, and I almost fell out of my Archie Bunker chair. I was absolutely stunned, absolutely stunned, because it was obviously someone wrote this speech for him. But he was saying, if you don't get vaxxed, you will forever be wearing the mask, and you won't be able to go to work because you're not getting vaccinated. Now, can you believe that he's just basically told every legal American, every legal resident in this nation, you have to get vaccinated, otherwise you're not allowed to work.
Yeah, so we get the scarlet letter, right? This stinks of another Holocaust revisited, except they got to instead wear stars, right? How ironic is that, huh? A gold star and welcome to Holocaust. How ironic is that, huh?
But the very fact that he could turn around to millions of people that either for health reasons or just for personal choice will not get the vaccinations, he will threaten their ability to survive, to live. So you have a choice. You can either earn a wage or not, period.
I know, right?
Now, there are.
To me, it's just gotten ridiculous. I mean, they started off with needing our Social Security number. The minute we were born, they were already watching us. People don't remember or realize that. They better realize that now. The minute we got tagged a number, it's no different than getting a chip instilled in our hand or whatever it is. Except back then it was all paper and pen. So we got stuck with a Social Security number.
Yeah, it has gotten so ridiculous. Everyone has an ID. You need one to cash a check at the bank, to go to the liquor store to buy something. Everyone has a photo ID of one sort or another. So when we hear that, we require you to have ID to prove that you're the person who owns that vote. No, that is voted. You're preventing people from voting, and I find that so ridiculous. But heaven forbid, now we're going to be given these vax passports. You can't enter a building. You can't go to a restaurant. You can't go to a sporting event. You can't go to the movie theater unless you have a vaccination passport. And we have given up in such a short time, so much freedom in such a short time. And I never thought the United States could be conquered so fast and so easily. But that, Grace, is what we're looking at, is it not?
It's right. I agree. It's sad. It's sad, but
I mean, they folded quicker than rice paper. I mean, actually, they crumbled. They crumbled. I can't believe it.
Wow.
And
It
I've
seems like
I've
that.
tried my best to show people this, stats and everything, even from the CDC. And I get back a message like, "Well, we'll just agree to disagree." Yeah, I mean, what's there to disagree with when I'm putting facts there? I mean, they don't even try to go out their way to say which facts they don't like or whatever. They just say, "Hey, we'll just have to disagree." And that's terrible when the facts are there. And if you don't agree with them, tell me why or show me where I'm wrong. They don't even try.
Or,
They bought into it.
yeah, yes, the communication skills are lacking.
Well, I think it has to do with the amount of fear that's been brought down, on the nation, and this fear is so great that people, the common sense have just left them, went AWOL, and they need to really come on the show, Southern Sense, to get the common sense back.
Right, right, exactly. What I'd like to do is maybe do some kind of an educational piece where we can teach our children young the due process of becoming, a civic servant, because that's what we end up becoming when we know that it's not about us, it's about everyone around us, right? All the things that we think we're doing for us is really for the goodness and glory of everyone else around us. We're here to help one another and to lift each other up.
If people want to help you with your campaign as you run from school board, where can they find you?
Oh, wow. So thank you so much for that. Let me get on here. On Facebook, if they look up, I just want to make doubly sure that I'm getting the right name here. Grace De La Rosa for Duval County School Board. If they just plug that into the Facebook search, Grace De La Rosa for Duval County School Board, they'll be able to find out ways that they can help there. I've even got an online version of my petition, which is the first and foremost important thing. They can't vote for me if my name isn't even on the ballot. So the petition gives me the opportunity to put my name on the ballot. And I need 1,000. I only have 200 right now. And I know that'll change because school is starting back up and the parents will be back from vacation. And hopefully your listeners will be able to hear this and want to help out. There's only one of us there now. We need more of the conservatives there. So Facebook would be a great place. The other place would be if they went on my personal Facebook page or on my personal LinkedIn. I know that I've placed several posts on there to get on the online petition and also to donate funds. Now, one restriction for the petition is you must live in the Duval County area to sign the petition. The other restriction is, you can't vote for me if I'm on there unless you're in my district, which is District 2. But right now we're focusing on the petition, so anyone in the Duval County area. And if you live outside of Duval County but you have friends in Duval County, that would be helpful for you to share with them, your friends from Duval County. The other thing, too, anybody that is a registered voter and lives in the United States can donate to my campaign. And we all know we can't continue this unless we have money. Nothing here is free. Nothing here is free. Love is free. Yes.
Grace, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. I'm sorry we had so many technical difficulties getting the show off the ground, but I'll get it working right, and we'll have you back on again. God bless you.
Oh, I would love that.
Good luck.
Thank you so much. Really
All
appreciate
right.
it. Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care, and I'll talk to you.
All right.
Okay.
Grace
And
De La Rosa.
that would be Duval County, Florida.
Right.
Yeah.
Florida,
And her Facebook page is at Grace, F-O-R, Grace, it's at Grace for School Board. That's her Facebook page, Grace, the word for, F-O-R, School Board. So we wish her good luck. I want to welcome back onto the show Karen Watson. Karen, how are you today?
I'm great. How are y'all?
Well,
Hey.
I've been asking myself, is today Friday the 13th? Because nothing has been working right. Absolutely nothing. And every time I open up the chat room on my page, it disappears on me. I'll be danged. I mean, there is a troll inside my computer. I mean, the minions of the Obama minions are in my computer. Oh my goodness. Anyway, great. I've been telling people about your book for quite a while, which is still up on Amazon in the Kindle version that you can, if you have Kindle Unlimited, it's free. Being Black and Republican in the Age of Obama, a psychographic study of Black conservatives. And you know what? I think this is Obama's third presidency. Because there could be no explanation for half the nutty things that are going on out there. Did you catch Joe Biden on his speech today?
No, I didn't. I can only imagine. I should have, but I can only imagine.
I'm going to have to search the internet to see if I can download it and maybe shoot it over to you. But my jaw dropped. He told the American public, and it's obvious he was reading from someone's script. He said that you must get vaccinated, that they've ordered enough vaccinations to vaccinate every single person in the United States. And if you don't get vaccinated, you must always wear a mask. And if you don't get vaccinated, even though you are wearing a mask, you cannot work. He just threatens every single honest, hard-working person who either for health reasons or just for, objecting to because they're researching these vaccines and they're not liking what they see, and they're making a personal health choice, you will not be able to work.
Oh, wow.
How do you live unless you have a good paycheck? How do you support your family? So he's threatening every single person's ability to earn an honest wage.
That's a terroristic threat.
The narrative on this is really all cattywampus. They are ignoring the fact that the majority, of the vast majority of the unvaccinated are pregnant women who are refusing to get vaccinated. And it's because they don't know what it will do to their unborn children. And
that's right. We all have a right.
Take a vaccine. Yeah, you're right. But especially pregnant women, because it's not just the health of their health, but the health of their unborn child that they're, taking into consideration. Plus, this is a vaccine that has not been completely approved by the FDA. So people have, in a free society, you are free to make a mistake. And whether the vaccine is good for you or bad for you, in our society, we have that choice. And there are a lot of people who are saying, I need more data. This is something that'll be put into my body, and I just need more data. And I think we should applaud people who are questioning everything instead of just go and do whatever the government says. I don't trust the government completely, and I think no one should ever trust the government completely. You should always be questioning. You should always be trying to find out, is this correct? We don't have, these are not gods. They are human beings who are fallible like we are, and we all have the right. That's what was great about our country, is that we realized we're all created equal by our Creator God. And so that means Joe Biden isn't smarter than you. It means that, maybe you're not smarter than him, but it means we all have certain inalienable rights. And we all have a right to kind of find out, does this make sense for me or my family? And just this, no matter what, the government is right. I think that's a dangerous thought.
Really, really. And they're not telling us the truth. And we know that to be a fact. They lied about it coming out of Wuhan. And friends that were working as missionaries in that province when this all started. And we knew as early as the end of September, October, that something bad was happening. When they had people by the dozens ending up in the hospital. And they would knock on the door, and my friends answered the door and says, "You're not Chinese, you're foreigners, and if you get sick, you can't come to the hospital. We're not going to treat you." They were told to their face that you're foreigners, you're not getting any help, period. And they were writing us these heart-wrenching letters. And as early as late October, I was starting to pick up material to make my hand sanitizer, my face masks, and everything, because we had an update. But when people were starting to die worldwide in December, no, this didn't come out of Wuhan. And when they finally admitted that something did happen, it wasn't until January, February, March, and then all of a sudden everything's locked down. Now, when they came out with these vaccines, I had friends sending me information, and these are scientists. I'm not talking about, some kook just surfing the internet. These were from scientists, people with medical backgrounds. Said these viruses will alter your DNA. So if a woman, if a couple are looking to become pregnant and have a baby, what does it do to their body? If they have that vaccine while they are pregnant, and we do know for a fact that pregnant women, should they get the vaccine, has a good chance of miscarrying that child. But they're not telling you that. They don't tell you that. Also, those stats seem to end up disappearing, but they're out there. They're not telling you what this will do to a young child as they develop, because it does alter the DNA. In order to fight the virus, they have to attach it to your DNA. So your DNA will, in effect, be the catalyst to start fighting the virus. Our government is not telling us a lot of these things. I went to my doctor, and then I followed up, wear a medical alert bracelet. Both of them said, don't get it, because they don't know how it reacts in my body. Right. And my sister had COVID.
And I think that's what we need to applaud people desiring more information. And even though penicillin has saved so many lives, there are people who are allergic to penicillin, and it is not helpful for everybody. So what I'm saying is that we're all different. And one of my customers who was a doctor, and she said something to me which it's kind of crazy to believe that, but it was one of those aha moments. And she said, Karen, just like we all look different on the outside, we all look different on the inside. And I was like, oh, really? And it's just like everybody is uniquely shaped. We all look a little different, and I was like, oh, so one thing doesn't fit all, and it's okay to question. In America, it should be, we should question. And that's one of the beauties of our country, is that we have a country that should say, I have questions, and I want to get the answers to my questions before I do X, Y, Z, because we're all different. And, and then they're acting like, this is the first communicable diseases? We've had communicable diseases from Adam and Eve. I mean, from the beginning of the fall. This is not the first, and you know what? It won't be the last. So let's move in sense of reason and common sense instead of hysteria. And that's what's kind of scary, this kind of rush to judgment, and everyone's given Rand Paul a hard time, but he's one of the few people in the Senate that is an MD. You know, I'm not saying that Rand Paul is 100. I'm not saying anybody's 100% correct, but an MD does have the right to question, and I mean, we all have the right to question. But you know, we have this. We're dividing people into this and that, and I just think it's a very un-American thing to do, and I hope that we will come out of this still Americans, and you know, instead of all the silly divide that they're trying to do, because a house divided against itself cannot stand, and people are picking and choosing their friends on who's so-called vaccinated and who's not vaccinated. I mean, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. So hopefully we'll come out of this as Americans with our liberties intact, with our common sense intact, and move forward and start respecting the individual rights of people to make decisions for themselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. You know, people forget that the world does not exist only around them, that we all share this planet. So when they think, they're only thinking about themselves, their immediate little tiny areas, and they don't even take into consideration how their actions would affect those people that are around them, that also are in their own little world. You know, we were taught by Christ to love thy neighbor. Right.
Yeah, and they don't know if they have all the data. And all, you know, they forget that, especially Black Americans, we have a unfortunate history with medicine in this country. All you have to do is study the Tuskegee experiment, and that's just one of them. I mean, you know, it's the scientific method is all about questioning. That's what the scientific method is all about, questioning, and all about getting more data. The new scientific method is just whatever science A person said. That's not the scientific method. You always get more data. You always continue to question. You go from a flat earth to a round to a sphere. I mean, you continue to on the data. And there's not a lot of data out there right now. And you know what? Just like they had this virus, there's going to be another one. And there's going to be one after that. And there will be one after that. And there will be another one after that. We are not in, you know, that's what viruses do. They mutate, they change. But, you know, we can't be afraid every time there's a new virus. That happens every second. What we have to do is get more data, be honest, tell the truth about what's going on, and then hope that we have people who are wise enough to make decisions for themselves and their families and their communities.
I'm trying to find an article, something that I came across, you know, something that Now, there was an article, I thought it was up on the Epic Times, I can't seem to find it, something that came across my desk talking about how our government isn't telling us the truth by their standards, by the way they feel that we should be living. I don't know if anyone saw the article about the Fauci's, was it the NIH that Fauci has control of, were doing experiments on some sort of, what was it? Some sort of, I forget what it is, something that people have a bad reaction to. And they turned around and had all these beagle puppies. This started in, I believe they said September of last year and went through June of this year. They were injecting these beagle puppies with whatever this item is. It's something that's naturally occurring. And the puppies immediately had bad reactions and were howling and howling in pain until after 126 days, they then killed the puppies. And we worry about PETA protesting us if you wear leather shoes, and yet our government is doing stuff that to a normal person we would be in jail for. And we're seeing this over and over, not just with this one experiment, but now with all these other things that are doing that are so unconstitutional. Are we finally in that final state, death throw of our nation? Have we really sunk that low?
Wow, I hope not. But the good thing is that there really is a God, and that means there really is hope. And if we have been going down the wrong road, we can always return and get back on the right road and restore common sense and a constitutional rule, which is, what we're supposed to be about. But hopefully, a lot of things have eroded, but hopefully, people will stand up and that won't happen.
Well, I found the article, Karen. It's in the Daily Caller by Dylan Hausman, who's the healthcare reporter. And it's the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, under the leadership of Dr. Anthony Fauci, granted taxpayer funds for this experiment, directed almost $500,000, $424,455 to researchers at the University of Georgia in September of 2020. Infected dozens of beagles with the disease-causing parasites in order to test an experimental drug on them. And this was documented by White Coat Waste Project and reviewed by the Daily Caller. And according to the NIAID task order form released via a Freedom of Information Act, 28 beagles were allowed to develop infections for 3 months before being euthanized for blood collection. January 2022. However, the task order states the beagles were euthanized 196 days after the start. They were euthanized then in June of this year. And now, also in a related article, they have the NIH, again, Fauci, spent $140 million on animal testing in foreign countries last year. Why does that man still have a job?
Well, because people don't know the data. And that's where media is falling down on their job. I know more about the Kardashians. I've never watched the show, literally, and than I do about what's happening in neighboring states because nobody is covering it. And it's a shame that we have a mainstream media that is ignoring news because they're trying to keep a certain narrative going. And that is extremely disturbing.
Yeah. Now,
but
you're we're talking about mainstream media not telling us anything. You're down in Texas.
Yeah.
You're right in the heart of what is going on with this illegal invasion. What are you seeing, and how is it impacting your life right now?
Well, what we've got to do is be honest about the situation. And it's, unfortunately, they're trying to play this game of see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. Well, that's not a real world. There is evil. And just closing your eyes to it and putting your head in the sand is a very immature way of handling things. We have to, what's happening in our country, where we had over 100,000 people die of drug overdose last year, and we have a lot of fentanyl which is a drug that's coming up out of Mexico, and then they want to frame the people, and they say, oh, this is, they're just poor and they've walked for 1,000 miles. You can see that these are not, I mean, these are not, this is not, a person that's walked 50 miles looks different than the way these people look. These coyotes are making a killing, and they're paying these coyotes like $12,000 a piece. And then they're getting these jobs over here for more drug trafficking and gang trafficking. I mean, it is just the ickiest type of business you can ever imagine. And it's happening right under our noses. And we are not, not acknowledging it, except the 100,000 dead. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's crazy. And this opioid crisis is connected to the illegal immigration, which is connected to the coyotes. I mean, it's just a mess. And
yes, it is. Well, Karen,
we've got to be honest with it.
I got to play my next guest, so I want you to come back on the show. If you're available next week, let's give you more time because there's so much more. Where can people find you?
They can reach out to me at Karen.Watson@gopbuzz.com. That's KAREN.WATSON@GOPBUZZ.com. And there's a lot of work to do, but we have a lot of people willing to do the work. So that's good.
Well, God bless. I'll be talking to you soon. And definitely I'm going to put a slide aside for you and get you to have a lot more time. Bad start to the show, so everything got shifted around a little bit. So I have to apologize for that. But let's talk.
No problem.
All right.
God bless.
I would
love to. And God bless y'all. Okay. Bye.
All right.
Hey, thank you.
Karen Watson, check out her GOP Buzz is a website she built. But let's get over to where I have my interview with Kevin Sorbo, and sit back, enjoy, and relax. All right. Curtis, are you still with me? Curtis?
Yep, I'm still here.
They're saying they're loud and clear on the other side. Facebook and all right, so this is a problem with BTR. So guys, and check that one out, because I got to cut this in. Unless you and I, Chris, just talk for the next several minutes, because next guest isn't for another 25 minutes, and I cannot believe we're having this problem today. So, boy, what? Talk about messing up a wet dream. Holy cow! Now, I'm sorry I let Karen go so early. Oh, man. So we're going to have to do a little cut and splice on this stuff today. Oh, man.
Well, somebody said Facebook and YouTube is okay. Duck said it.
Unbelievable. I'm going to have to put up Kevin Sorbo's interview separately somewhere. And I apologize, guys. I don't even know what the heck is going on with Blog Talk Radio. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to have to find a separate avenue, see if I can get it directly onto my regular homepage and just have everyone go to my page. That's what I have to do now.
Yeah, we're subject to all kind of sabotage.
This is a complete utter shame. I don't know what to tell you guys, but I've never had my show come off this badly. Never. I don't know. Did I just lose you, Curtis? I just heard a click.
I'm still here.
Oh, okay, because I heard a click. I'm going, what? Oh, please don't tell me that I just lost you.
No, I'm still here.
Oh, man.
But there's lots we can talk about besides Biden and them. Trump has got a lot of rallies that he's scheduled, and I'm looking forward to him to come, return to Florida, because I do believe he is running again. When he's asked about his running again, he sends out little teasers, like he'll say something like, "You'll be happy, to find out when I make my decisions," things like that, I mean, you don't say stuff like that if you have no plans of running, to get people's hopes up high. And then I run across Republicans who say he shouldn't run, and I'm always curious about that side of the argument, because I know nobody else that's going to stand up to the liberals and the Washington D.C. swamp like Trump did. Not only that, he's got 4 years of experience behind him as far as dealing with these swamp creatures up there, and he knows who to trust now, who not to trust. So I think going in, I mean, why reinvent the wheel? You got somebody like we never had before who's a fighter. Yes, he does run his mouth off a lot, but that seems to keep them, off balance in some ways. I mean, we have tried having Republicans in office who are nice and very diplomatic, and they reach across the aisles, but where did it get us? That's what I say to people who seem to be more along the line that we need to be more presidential. I mean, if you look back in our history, there's a lot of presidents that did not always come off as being presidential. And one was Andrew Jackson. But I mean, some of these guys, and, it's just a matter of personalities. And we should all know Trump by now and his personality. But I don't think that should taint this man's belief in his country and his status as a true American patriot. I would tell people when I went around to speak all across through the plain, for people who would say, well, he's not a conservative, I would say, well, Trump may not be a conservative. Not at that time. He was campaigning the first time. But I said he's the closest thing to a conservative and that's being a patriot. And being a patriot, you know, in time he's going to, you know, become a conservative. And I believe that's exactly what happened after dealing with these swamp creatures the past 4 years. Actually, you might say 6, to include his 2 years of campaigning before he went into office. But they've been after him ever since he came down the elevator. And we all know, you know, the fake dossier and all this other stuff that, you know, the call over to overseas and how that was taken out of context. And, you know, they let people like Hunter Biden go. You know, he skates.
Well, what people, unfortunately, they forget that there was only one perfect being, and that was Jesus.
That's right. But they want the perfect one.
Next closest to a perfect being would be his mother, the Virgin Mary. So, you know, you're never going to have a perfect person. There's always going to be something where you object to something they say or do. It doesn't matter. It could be something you love dearly, or a candidate running for office. There's always going to be something there. Because when he was running it, I'd hear, oh, but he's been divorced. He treats women badly. Well, the women that he's divorced, allegedly treated badly, have never really said anything bad about him. Matter of fact, they're raising their kids, even though that they were divorced. And his kids are marvelous. They're not spoiled brats like Hunter Biden. They're not out there, you know, smoking crack. So there's always going to be something. And if
they're running businesses.
Even if that person isn't perfect, are they the best qualified to do that job? Will they support the ideals that you support? Will they put them into action? You know, you want to throw that stone at that glass house, you better take a real good look at yourself. Because if anyone were to delve into any last one of us, we all have something we're ashamed of that we don't want made public. And if you say, no, I don't, I dare you to run for office and have someone delve into your entire life. Rip it apart and throw it on the front page. And the fact that man could stand the scrutiny and do it with grace and courage speaks loads for how he would stand and speak with courage for this nation. Oh, wait a minute. He did do that. And instead, we've got the wimp in office, which I still say it is elder abuse, the fact that man is still in that office. But they're getting things done because he is just their puppet. And he's saying, do you think if he completely comprehended what he was saying in that speech today, he would have said those words? If he had the cognitive ability to think it through, everything he just said, would have said, wait a minute, I'm going to get myself in trouble if I say this? No.
Well,
this guy, he can't reason it through.
Look at how they dealt with the Clinton scandal. They say, oh, we shouldn't get involved in that. That's a personal matter. And it was a terrible situation for a president to be in. Yet they're very gleeful because they finally found some judge to and some people in the Justice Department to say that Trump has to turn over his tax records. You know, it's like, how obvious can you be with your bias, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this administration is so bad. Northwest Media posted up over on YouTube on that video going up over there that 9 of 11 families said Biden is not welcome at the 20th anniversary at the memorial for the celebration. And
say that again. He's not.
September 11th is going to be 20 years since our nation was attacked. The World Trade Center and Shankin and the Pentagon normally have had ceremonies, you know, commemorating. This will be the 20th anniversary this year. And they said, they don't want Biden there. They do not want him there. That is how bad this administration is. I mean, I'm sorry that we let Karen go. I didn't know I was going to have all these difficulties because we could have then gone into a lot of these other things. Because here, do you think Trump would have stood idly by for 6 going on 7 months with this major infection being spread across this nation by illegal criminal aliens? Yes, they broke the law coming across that border.
Well, actually, I mean, the last year and a half of Trump's presidency, you weren't really hearing nothing about the border. The wall was going up. Intrusions into over our borders were way down, and the border, patrol people, they seemed to be happy that the pressure was off of them. And then Biden gets in, and they reverse everything that Trump had put in place to deal with the situation, and he kind of like erased a lot of Trump's executive orders, and he, from what I understand, stopped funding the remaining funds that were targeted for, extending the wall. So they got nobody to blame but themselves, I mean, they take an oath to uphold the Constitution and protect and preserve this country and this and that and the other, and they do the opposite, and they're never held accountable for this. It's treason to me that these people can take an oath and get away with such things like Hillary Clinton and the computer drive thing. There's no accountability.
No, it's the law for thee, but not for me. And Doc posted up in the chat room here on BTR that code enforcement told Trump he couldn't use his own helicopter pad. Now, that is chutzpah. He can't even use his own helicopter pad. And I'm assuming, Doc, you meant on 9/11 to go to the 9/11 commemorative event. This is crazy.
But I really think that once he gets back in, he's going after all these people, like code enforcement, Google, Amazon, all of them. I see Trump bringing up antitrust lawsuits against these folks and breaking them up, just like Roosevelt did with John D. Rockefeller and Sun Oil, because they've grown too big for their britches and too powerful and far too intrusive, to our rights and our privacy. And somebody has to stand up to them. And for those never Trumpers, I don't know who you think is going to replace this man as far as taking on the swamp and wrestling with them like Tarzan used to do in the old movies when he went up against alligators. He's just not going to find anybody that's going to do that,
No. But those that are tuning in who thought they were going to be listening to Kevin Sorbo's interview with me, unfortunately, again, technical difficulties are not allowing me to play that segment because I had to tape it ahead of time. So it was taped 2 days ago, and it was supposed to be cut into the show, but I will put it up separately so that people can click on it and enjoy his thoughts. As we discussed Daphne Barak's and Bill Ganasti's book, Struggle for America. We interviewed them last week. So, we discussed that and the state of the nation as well as other things. And it's a really good interview. So I'm sorry to have to apologize. For whatever reason, nothing is going correctly on Blog Talk Radio. And everything that should have gone as smooth as possible just all backfired on us. Anyway, there was another question that was put up over here on, was it over here on YouTube? You see, it was. Again, Northwest Media, our friend Duck, put up there. His question was, which I wanted to ask Karen, because I kind of cracked up when I read it, it's why is that we can't go door to door in the census and ask people if they're living there illegally, but it's perfectly okay to go door to door and ask people if they've been vaccinated. That's a good question. You think about that. They want to go door to door to make sure that you're vaccinated, asking if you've been vaccinated. So they'll send someone to trespass onto your property to ask you a medical question, which the HIPAA Act directly states they're not allowed to ask. They're not your health care provider. You did not sign a HIPAA waiver to give them that information. And the moment they ask it, they are breaking federal law, folks. We got to start using the law against them. They're sure as heck bending the law to use against us.
Well, see, in this time and era, you have to be an illegal to have rights. Natural-born citizens have no more rights. That's the way it seems.
Yeah, they will house the illegal aliens in hotels, shuttle them into all these different communities so they have places to live, and not letting the
front line,
the
front lines at the airport.
Yeah, they're flying on planes, sitting next to paying passengers, carrying the obviously sick with various diseases, but our legal residents, our legal citizens, many of them who are military, that are homeless, living in tent cities, they're not doing a thing for.
Not for the veterans.
Yeah, and Joe Goldner puts in the chat room that the left is saying that HIPAA doesn't matter. Until
that's what they're saying. Yeah.
Unless their HIPAA is violated. Once their HIPAA is violated, watch them go screaming high heaven and running to the first attorney to file a lawsuit. Oh, they'll be good at that. But we, as conservatives, don't want to make waves. I think it's time we start making waves, folks. But we want to get along, to go along. We're worried about raising our family, not causing anyone to pay any undue attention to us. Well, it's time we start speaking up and speaking out. This silent majority has got to be silent no longer.
Yeah, we have to start using the law against the lawless and putting these folks behind bars.
Yeah. Now, Doc, if you have a link to where people can find out about Donald Trump's rallies, because there's one scheduled in Alabama that Trump will be coming to. It's for Coleman? Yeah, Coleman, who's running for office in Alabama on August 21st. So, Doc, if you have a link, put that up somewhere so I can repost it, or even just put it in the chat room here if you're still over here in BTR. So people, if he's coming to their area, they'll know. I think it might be just his name. If you just key that in, I'm not sure. I remember I heard him giving it out in an interview recently, and unfortunately I didn't write it down. But if Trump is coming back, like Sean Spencer indicated, and who else was it? Oh, was it Sebastian Gorka may have hinted at it too, but yeah. Unfortunately, DOJ is becoming a wholly-owned subsidiary. Yes, they are. And Bill Barr did not control that all too well. And you are correct about that, Sarge. The DOJ had been used against Trump, and the Attorney General was not in the defense of President Trump. So, matter of fact, the Durham report was supposed to be coming out this week. I don't know if anyone's caught any of that, if it even came out, if it really does exist. I'd like to know that one, too. Definitely would like to know that one.
Well, I thought that already came out, the Durham report, and he found no probable cause. I mean, it was just so disappointing, all these investigations at taxpayers' expense and nothing. It's just crazy. I guess we were all just dreaming.
Well, I'm looking here, and I just did a typing in Durham report, and it just, everything I see is that it's coming. Nothing is saying that it's
well, maybe I'm talking about a preliminary one that happened while Trump was campaigning. But he did come out with something preliminary, and was nothing to it, as far as he could see. It's very disappointing.
Mm-hmm. I see a lot of stuff here saying, where is it? Where is it?
Yeah, you keep hearing, oh, these guys are straight shooters. They're not influenced by this and that and the other. And these are the same people that come up empty. Can't find anything. They all of a sudden they can't see anything.
No, I don't see
That's
anywhere
how
where
deep
it's
the deep state is.
Yeah, I don't see anything where it shows it being issued. And yes, Sarge, Sarge said that no one's seen John Durham. No one has seen this man. They just have this one picture they keep on circulating. And Sarge said, "Do we need to put his picture on milk cartons?"
Milk carton.
What was that little kids game they used to play? Where in the world is Carmen San Diego? Where in the world is John Durham and his report?
Yeah. Yeah, they had the same version of that with Matt Lauer while he was out there chasing women.
Oh, jeez. I mean, this is crazy. I mean, every single day we are being bombarded with one thing after another. And I don't blame people for wanting to turn the news off, not listen, not watch it anymore, because it will make your head spin. And many stations,
well, I'm one of those.
The same story over and over and over again. And no one's telling you anything new. Meanwhile, there are other stories out there that should be spread, but you don't hear about them.
I'm hard pressed to watch the local news, to be honest with you. It sounds like it's all bad. And then the other 70% is all COVID. I'm just tired of hearing COVID every day. COVID this, vaccine that. So only time I really watch the news if I hear that Trump is speaking or something like that, or Mark Levin. He has a show. That's about the only time I watch Fox. Mark Levin.
I actually have stopped watching Fox altogether. I tried. Right now, my TV provider does not have One American News Network, so I occasionally go onto their page. Otherwise, I watch Newsmax. I mean, it's a lot more. What am I thinking? The words I'm thinking. I'm sorry, I'm having some brain farts here. I'm trying to do 3 different things at the same time, and I'm not doing them too well. Anyway, we should have our next guest.
It seems like Fox have changed their stripes, and I think this happened a couple of years ago when they took on new management, and they even announced that they were going to take Fox in a new direction. And next thing you know, who's on Fox? Donna Brazile and a couple of others. It was enough to put up with Juan Williams all those years. But I just don't watch Fox unless it's, once in a while I watch Mark Levin.
But trying to make sure we get our next guest to call in. And unfortunately, I don't have his information in my stuff. Yeah, because he missed last week along with Joel Griffith. As a matter of fact, they used to work together at Heritage Foundation, so they know each other. And they were both like, "Oh no, I can't believe I did that." So he should be calling in very, very shortly. I have to pull up my email, so just bear with me, folks, while I'm just going through this. And Curtis, go ahead. Tell them what's coming up with your next book.
All righty. I spent the last 8 months, maybe 9 months, doing something I'd never done before, and that's to concentrate on writing 3 novels, all 3 different genres, and all 3 very fantastic stories. One was political. It's called Truth versus the Democrat Party. I can't even get it online in Amazon or Barnes and Nobles, and it's about 8 more out there. It's been literally banned. They have put so many obstacles before me to get that thing online, and I'm just going to handle it legally. It's amazing that they gave me all this pushback because my next book, which it's a romance, well, I say romance, but it's more an adventure, but sprinkled with romance. It's about a hunt for a lost painting at sea somewhere in the Caribbean that went down on a cargo ship back in the late 60s. It's a very famous painting, and whoever finds it, it's worth about $240 million. And so there's quite a few treasure hunters and whatnot going after that. But one in particular, a main character, he's a ocean archaeologist, and he's a treasure hunter in his spare time, and he goes after it. And amazingly, this book got on Barnes and Nobles without any problem, and 8 other online publishing companies, distribution companies. And the next to come out in another week or two will be my military action, which is called Retribution for the Burks. And this is a story about 6 of our bravest special operations forces members who are ambushed and killed, and what happened, what the backstory behind how this happened and everything, because this happened across 3 continents. There was 3 raids the same night, and the backstory is how did this happen, and there are people investigating it from the journalist field and some other people and the military, but the administration and some higher ups in the military know what happened, but they know who's behind it or was behind it, and they want to keep it a secret. But anyway, it's a great military action story, and that should be coming out soon. So
okay.
I am happy to have finished that. I will never do that again. It was a great challenge, but I got it done. It's not really something I set out to do. It's something that was there on my mind, and I just started writing one story, and then after I wrote a couple of weeks on one story, I just sat down, started on another story, and
Curtis,
it just worked like.
Curtis, we're going to have some fun when the books do come out, but we got our next guest on the line. He's
All right.
He's paying his penance today. So welcome from the Epic Times, Mark Tapscott.
Mark.
How are you doing today, Mark? How are you doing today?
I am fine. How are you all?
I've
All
been
right.
having one of those days. We've had one technical issue after another, and I had taped an interview with Kevin Sorbo, and I was going to play it, but for some reason it wasn't playing here. And so I'm going to have to put it up somewhere else so that people can see it. It was a really great interview. But today, anything that can go wrong has gone wrong. So beware.
This is our Apollo 13 day. Houston, we have a problem.
Excellent. Well, but remember, Apollo 13 made it back.
That's right. That's the American spirit.
I've got 56 more minutes, and I'll be crash landing. Boys, I can be a crash landing. Where's the scotch? Oh, man. Mark, there's so much stuff that has been going on over the past week, and I don't even know where to even start with you, because this has been one of the nuttiest political situations. Ever since Trump announced he was running, things have gotten crazier and crazier. Now, I've been talking about this all day during the show. Did you catch Joe Biden's speech today?
No, I did not. I was working on and still working on a news story about his presentation yesterday at the White House concerning electric vehicles.
Yeah. Well, he actually said that everyone will get vaccinated, because he's bragging about how they're buying all this vaccination. So every single American, every single person living in the United States can be vaccinated, will be vaccinated. He was saying that if you don't get vaccinated, you must wear a mask. If you do not get vaccinated, even though you're wearing a mask, you cannot go to work. Can you?
There is no way that is going to survive constitutional review. You cannot deprive people of equal protection of the law under the 14th Amendment, and that will not stand.
People are already losing their jobs because they won't get vaccinated. Wait a minute.
Well, it's going to take some time, but there are going to be legal challenges, and I am very confident that ultimately the courts will say you cannot make somebody's ability to earn a living contingent upon whether or not they agree to wear a mask or to be vaccinated. You just can't do that. That creates a second-class citizen.
Exactly. And I'm surprised we have not seen any of these lawsuits yet. I'm wondering if these attorneys are so frightened of any blowback from the crazy left, having people picketing or storming their offices. We already know that one legal team dropped Trump because they were getting harassing phone calls and other things from the left. I'm wondering if these guys are just too cowardly to take up the cause.
Well, I can't. That may be the case with some. I don't know, but frankly, some of the lawyers that I've known over the years, it would amaze me if anybody could intimidate them. I mean, there are lawyers that I would not want to get on the wrong side of.
Because I went yesterday to the pain management specialist. I was supposed to have my second pain shot on the back because I am always in excruciating pain. And I wear a face shield because I'm one of the freaky people that cannot wear a mask. Even though I was making them and giving them away when this was all breaking out, and I was wearing them, and I was being creative with them. But she goes, you can't come in here if you're only wearing the face shield. I said, last time it was okay. Yeah, I put the cloth mask on just for the 5 minutes it took for the procedure, and then I can't wear it any longer than that. No, then you have to be rescheduled. And I'm like, what? I've been already waiting 2 months for this injection, and you're going to tell me to wait even longer? Even though I still can't wear a mask, you're going to have me travel all the way back out here to go through this whole thing again to tell me no? You're telling me that you're not going to treat me then. And this is what I'm running into. Can you imagine what would happen to these attorneys if they even take this case up?
Well, I seem to remember seeing last week on the television news the Secretary of Defense in public wearing a plastic shield.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
So
he was.
If it works for the Secretary of Defense, I don't know why it wouldn't work for anybody else.
Yeah, and
assuming that it did in fact work for the Secretary of Defense. And
these medical people, one of them was the nurse, saying, well, the new variant is so viral. It's really, really bad. It's really viral. It's really, really bad. And I'm going, when was the last time you saw the death counter up on the news networks? I haven't seen it up on any of the news networks in months. Ever since, we finally got the COVID under control and the nation started to open up. Mark, if this is so bad, if this Delta variation, and there's a new one coming out that's supposed to be even worse, is so bad, why aren't we seeing people dropping dead in mass droves?
I'll tell you, Ann, the thing that puzzles me the most, and it especially puzzles me now that as you've said, if Biden is now saying that every single American must get vaccinated, that really raises a question, because why? That is a level of intensity that, we don't do that with any other vaccine, and similar numbers of people die of flu every year, but we've never made that kind of completely inflexible requirement. I wonder why this is so much more important than any other vaccine. It does not make sense to me.
No, it doesn't.
Actually, Mark, there's I think like in the United States, 600, maybe 606,000 deaths that are associated with COVID. They don't say
Right.
COVID caused it, but if you look
Right.
at the numbers for pneumonia, which is 590 something, and then you look at influenza, which is about 9,000 something. You combine those two, it is more than COVID. And we know just over the year that we've been dealing with COVID that some of these numbers are not true. The death count, because they were attributing other deaths to COVID. So if you put pneumonia and influenza together, and we never had any issues with those, why should we have an issue now with COVID?
Yeah. There have been
Where they want to demand us to, get a shot. Something else is going on.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry, Mark.
There have been many questions about the reliability, the comprehensiveness of the data that CDC has put out on the number of people who have died and how many of them were associated with COVID. And the big question has always been, well, these are predominantly older people, most of whom have comorbidities. And so somebody had to make a choice. Did this particular individual die because they had terminal COPD, or did they die because they had COVID? And that is a question about the sample of the statistics that really raises some real doubts about the accuracy of the database. So I'm very, very skeptical of those numbers.
I would be too. I really would be too. Because, you have someone going in there that is dying from cancer, may have caught the COVID virus, but did they die from the cancer? Or was the COVID that aggressive that it caused the cancer to get worse? I mean, you can't say that any one thing is COVID caused unless that person was 100% healthy with nothing else. And I don't hear that out there. There's always something else.
Well, the only way you can make an official determination of a cause of death is to have an official autopsy. And I don't believe that there have been 660,000 official autopsies, where a medical examiner actually goes into the body, runs the test, examines the organs, and reaches a conclusion about what caused the death. I don't think that's been done on all the people that have been classified as having died of COVID.
Yeah. The one thing I do know is I've got my husband's death certificate, and I made sure it wasn't on there. He was tested at the hospital, and while he's there, they was texting me to let me know that his test was negative. But, it's all about the Benjamins, isn't it? Each hospital that declares it a COVID-related death gets a lot of money, don't they?
Well, I've seen contradictory reporting on that. I'm not sure. Frankly, having covered the federal government for many, many years, it would not surprise me at all to know that there was in some way a way that the system could be rigged, if, for lack of a better term, to produce more revenue for a hospital or another healthcare facility by attributing deaths to one cause rather than another one. I don't know. That's been, we've been hearing that from the very beginning, frankly, of the pandemic, and the very fact that we continue to hear that accusation, I think, ought to be of real concern.
It's. I'm looking at my notes that I have all over the place, and there was a report that came out recently that the Wuhan lab was, built and funded by the French, and until recently, the French were training the scientists there, and they were running it as partners Well, you never partner with anything that is Chinese because you'll lose your shirt, which the French found out. Now, I'm hearing that as early as 2017, France was warning us that there was something coming. They were warning us that something's going to be released, and it's going to affect us primarily, but it was going to be worldwide. Isn't this sound very familiar? That we had a heads-up warning, and we didn't take action for whatever reason, and we have 9/11. We were getting warnings ahead of time. This is what the 9/11 Commission, knew. Maybe we need a Wuhan virus commission, not the one Pelosi put together, but independent scientists to really trace this down, because the public is only starting to get little whiffs of bits and pieces about this.
Yeah. I believe the reporting that I've read on the French situation is that they were warning the U.S. intelligence agencies that the Wuhan lab was doing gain-of-function research, which, of course, is that's the building block for a manufactured virus like coronavirus appears to be. What's really fascinating about that, though, is since NIH, through Tony Fauci's group, was funding gain-of-function research at the Wuhan lab, I can't imagine that the federal government didn't know that before the French told us that it was happening there. So, I am absolutely convinced that when the final analysis is done, the conclusion will be that coronavirus, COVID, whatever you want to call it, was created in the lab at Wuhan, and it came from the lab in the Wuhan lab. Whether that happened accidentally or intentionally is another issue, but I have no doubt that it did indeed come from the lab.
Well,
Mark, if it was
yes,
intentional, would you call it an act of war?
I don't know how you could call it anything else.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing you can. We have been attacked, and the Chinese have had us on their radar and attacking us in various areas, from education to the boardroom to ownership of buildings. And Smithfield Meats, Chinese owned. They are so woven into our fabric. I don't think we'll ever get rid of them, and we fail to recognize them as enemies, and we still try to treat them with touchy-feely. And I think Trump is the only one that really got it right. So I mean, the World Health Organization has got shut out of the inspections over there. So if they were so innocent and above board, why would they do that?
Yeah. Well, let me share a little bit with you about the news story that I'm working on today, because it is related to the whole issue of China. Yesterday Biden said that he was signing, in fact, he signed it yesterday, an executive order that makes it a target for the U.S. to have 50% of all cars and trucks that are sold in America by 2030 to be electric vehicles. Now, that's very significant because an electric vehicle has to have a battery. And the kinds of batteries that are used in electric vehicles are lithium-ion batteries. Lithium-ion batteries require a number of very rare and expensive metals, among them cobalt, and, of course, lithium, and several others. And it just so happens that, according to mining.com, which is an industry trade publication, China has a stranglehold. China has a stranglehold on the supply of batteries for EVs. So if we all of a sudden somehow manage to persuade millions of Americans in the next 9 years to buy EVs, that's going to result in a massive flow of new revenue to China, because we're going to have to get those batteries from China.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he said he wants us by a certain date to be all electric. Now throw that in with an article you wrote over at the Epic Times. You titled it, Senate Infrastructure Bill Gives Feds Go-Ahead to Test Taxing Every Mile Americans Drive. That will kill the trucking industry. You were not going to be able to get goods and services because these guys are not going to want to rack up that tax.
If they don't get you coming, they'll get you going. It just amazes me the comprehensive manner with which the left in our country, liberals and progressives, they never stop trying to find another way to use the government to control people. And transportation is a key one for them because, what defines American freedom more than the fact that, I can go out and jump in my truck and drive anywhere in this country that I want to. Liberals don't like that. They don't want me to be able to do that. They don't want you to be able to do that. So they're constantly coming up with all of these ways to make it more difficult and more expensive to exercise your freedom. In this case, the ability, the freedom to drive.
Mm-hmm. Now, Chief posed a question, but I'm going to reword it a little bit. Electric cars run on electricity. All right, that means we're going to need electric power plants to generate that electricity. And that means you're going to have to produce that electricity. How are you going to do that? Enough electricity to power our neighborhoods, our cities, as well as these vehicles. You think about how much power is going to have to be created if every household has a car. Are they going to outlaw diesel and gasoline-powered vehicles once they get this where you have to be 100% compliant? What do you do with antique car shows then? And these vehicles are priced so high that middle and lower income people cannot afford them, much less pay for the additional electricity to run them. So they're basically putting us on another version of a lockdown. Isn't that the end result they want?
That seems to me a very accurate assessment, and I would only add that I don't see how, if you bring about this tremendous explosion in demand for electricity at a time when we don't have the capacity to produce it, that will drive the cost of that energy that you can produce sky high, and that in turn will then become the justification from the government to ration it. And then we will all be subject to the government telling us when and where we can drive. And I think that's what their goal is.
Yeah. It's our freedoms that are on the chopping block. And we're all shaking our heads. Yeah. Electrical cars are good because that takes us off of petrol. It takes us off of having to go for oil. It increases the need for items made by petrochemicals. Because how do you think they put that car together? From everything from manufacturing the wiring to the seat covers, to the steering wheel, every single part of that car at one point or another is either made of pure petrochemicals or needs petrochemicals to be produced. So you can't even manufacture these cars without oil. And what does he do? He closed down our pipelines. He's halting mining. So how are you going to produce the electricity for these electric cars that we can't plug in anymore because they're not being produced because we're not producing the electricity to produce the cars for people to buy the cars to power up the cars? It is a catch-22 no matter how you look at it, Mark. And I don't see why no one else sees what you and I see.
Well, I don't think it's just you and I, Ann. I think millions and millions of Americans see all this stuff, and they may not understand all of it, because who's got time to follow every single big news story? Not even journalists like me that cover Washington. I can't keep track of all of it. So it's not surprising that a lot of people are confused, but it's very significant that they're not only confused, they're also very, very uncomfortable with the way things are going. And I can't wait for November 2022 to get here.
Well, Chief posted something in the chat room, because Chief posted in the chat room, but I was already thinking exactly what Chief posted. Invest in horse futures. And I'm thinking, maybe we should start going out and buying ourselves horse and buggies. But the only problem with that is, I live on almost an acre, so I got room for a horse. But I'm probably going to be having the greenies coming after me, because that horse produces flatulence, which produces methane. Yep. So I'm going to be, oh no, you're contributing to climate warming. So they said, flounder, they've got us every which way to Sunday.
Yep. Like I said, if they don't get you going, they will get you coming. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're a nation of patriots still, because there are still a lot of us out there. And I would have to believe that some of these patriots are accomplished lawyers. I'm trying to figure out, where are these lawyers when we need them, to stand up for the Constitution and our rights? I don't see a whole lot of legal challenges to some of the things coming out of this administration. Am I wrong?
Well, it depends on which particular area that you're talking about. In the area of First Amendment and religious freedom issues, there's been a tremendous amount of litigation. The groups like Liberty Counsel, which is Matt Staver's group based in Florida. Then there's the Alliance Defending Freedom, which is based in Phoenix, Arizona. There is First Liberty Institute, which is based in Plano, Texas. And then the Thomas More Society, which is based in Chicago. And there are other groups that are similar to them, but those are the four biggest, really, and the most successful. They have won a number of major victories in federal courts, including the Supreme Court, on behalf of religious freedom. These programs, like what Biden announced yesterday on the electric vehicles, I can guarantee you there will be challenges in the courts. It takes time, and it's, as you well know, our court system does not function with any kind of speed, except under very extraordinary circumstances, and it will take time. But I'm very confident that a lot of this stuff that today, the eviction moratorium, for example, that Biden, the Supreme Court just told them, no, you can't do that, and they're doing it anyway.
And they're going to ignore it, yeah.
And they're ignoring it. Yeah, but that cannot continue very long in this country, because at a certain point, the courts are going to find a way to say, you cannot do that, and you have to stop, and then it will stop.
Well, we've got to be able to get them to stop. I hope so. I really, really do hope so. Because you look at the way they're infringing upon our freedoms, and the eviction executive order has been reinstated. So now there's these landlords, these people that are renting out property, they still have to pay the bank. So where is that money coming from to pay the bank in order to continue to own that property? Now, how many of these guys are going into foreclosure, being forced into foreclosure because of Joe Biden?
I've seen interviews with a number of property owners, landlords, if you will, and they're at the wit's end. I mean, they have not received the rent that they have to have to live on and to maintain their properties. And if they do try to go through with an eviction, that subjects them now, under the extension of the eviction moratorium, to criminal prosecution. And if you're a property owner and you have a choice between abandoning your property and trying to protect it, but knowing that you're going to go bankrupt because of legal expenses and maybe go to jail, that's a very, very difficult decision to make. And a lot of folks are going to say, I'm out of here.
Yeah, yeah. And what happens when you do abandon the property? Then you have the local municipality coming after you because you abandoned the property. So, as you said, they get you coming and going. Now, we're getting reports also that a lot of these renters sublet the apartments. So they're collecting rent while they're collecting money from government to not go to work, to cover their rent, and they're getting it double down, and they still can't pay the rent.
I had not heard that. That's a new angle on me, but frankly, it doesn't surprise me a bit. It does not surprise me.
Now, I mean, if the government has a way to give out our money, people are receiving this stuff for free, you'll find ways for people to make it work all the better for them. You know, it's another form of welfare fraud. It's exactly what it is. I'm going to go buy lobster on my EBT card, you know?
Yep.
Anyway, if you want to hang around, Mark, we've got a friend of yours just called in. He's doing penance, too, just like you. Let me bring him aboard. Yeah, it's uh-oh. And you heard the uh-oh. We want to welcome from Heritage Foundation, Joel Terrific. He some of the stuff you have already been talking about, Joel. We've got Mark Capscott with us. So the two of you are doing penance today.
Hello, how are you doing today? Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. We were talking about this eviction order that Biden has re-signed and some of the stuff that's going on with it. You know, I was telling him that I was getting stories and reports about these tenants that were subletting their apartment, collecting rent from the subletter, not paying their rent, and collecting government money to not work and to help pay their rent. So, I mean, this is a huge con game, isn't it?
For many, there are a number of people that have been living rent-free now for 16, 17 months, and this eviction moratorium is allowing them to get off without making those payments. And we know that this order is unconstitutional, it's unlawful. The CDC does not have the power to suspend evictions, and Congress doesn't have the power to suspend evictions. I mean, what we see right now is President Biden and the CDC director acting contrary to the oath of office that they took to uphold and defend the Constitution. This is really defying the Constitution and defying the Supreme Court.
And Mark, you want to add to that?
Steve, how are you? Good to hear from you.
Joel, you mean? We've got Joel Griffin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joel, I'm sorry.
Yes.
I apologize. I spent 6 great years at the Heritage Foundation at one point in my career, so I envy you.
I think it's a great place to be.
Yes, it is. It's helped us a lot. Now, Joe, have you been hearing that right now there's a loss of quality of life, supposedly, but builders are very shy right now to put up. Well, first off, the cost of the lumber and other items they need has skyrocketed. A friend of mine went to buy a thing of plywood, and it normally would go like $12.99. At that point, it was at the height of the pandemic, it was over $45 a sheet. He said it's even higher now. So how are you going to build affordable housing for these people that claim they can't afford these high rents, but yet they're not paying rent? You understand what I'm trying to say? This is so confusing. I mean, it's like you're keeping the business from building new homes, but you want to keep these people at home and not go to work.
Well, affordable housing has been a big problem, and I know you mentioned lumber. At one point, lumber had tripled in costs from December of 2020 through the spring of this year. Now, thankfully, lumber prices have actually plunged by about 70% over the past few months, so they're back down to about where they were beforehand. But that's just the start of the problem with lumber. This affordable housing issue predated the rise in lumber prices, and it's something that the government actually has been responsible for. We have seen housing costs increase at a multiple of the overall rate of inflation, and it's no coincidence that the housing industry is an industry that is heavily subsidized by the government through the tax code, through subsidized mortgages, through the central bank buying mortgages, government guarantees, and this has really driven up the cost of housing. And I know everyone that owns a home, you initially like the boost to your home equity when you see those prices rise, but when you look to buy a new house, or if your family grows and you look to buy a new house, or if your property tax is rising year over year, it's a very real problem. And it's not just for homeowners, it's also for renters. Rental prices in many cities increased double digits or even 20% in some places year over year. So this is a very real problem, and putting this eviction moratorium in place isn't going to help matters. Landlords are going to have to raise security deposits. They're going to have to tighten credit checks. People are going to pay now because there's this added risk of state and local and federal government stepping in and not allowing landlords, property owners, to enforce their rights.
Yeah, it's a crazy, crazy world we're finding ourselves in. The county I live in is trying to put out a lost tax. It's a local option sales tax, and the point of it is to give back to the property owners some of the taxes they've been collecting. And we've been going through this resolution and been tearing it apart because, fine and Jim Dandy, you make it sound like, to the renters, you want them to vote for this. Oh, gee, sales tax, we're going to get some money back on this one. But there's no stipulation that the landlords have any obligation to return the renter's rent that went into paying the property tax. It is a huge scam just to boost the county revenue. And we're seeing this happening nationwide. And I live in a red state, and this is happening. So, when it comes down to talking about property and rents, there's a whole lot of other issues that fall in there.
Yeah, and with the rental aid that's been dispersed by Congress to state and local governments, there's been a big issue actually getting that into the hands of property owners and tenants. There's so many strings attached, number one, and including if you're a landlord and you accept the aid. In some places, like in New York, if you accept that aid to help make up the lost rent, you have to agree to not just hold off on eviction now, you have to agree to not evict the person for a full year after receiving the payments, meaning in some instances you could have a tenant go 2 years without making a single rent payment and still have them in the property. So there's so many problems with the way this has unfolded over the past year.
Well, if anyone has ever been a landlord, which I have in the past, and if you have someone not paying the rent, it is, depending upon the state you live in, you got to jump through so many hoops just to even start an eviction. Not only that, the renter, while they're living there free, they have no respect for your property at all. By the time you finally do get them out, if it's 2, 3, sometimes even 5 years later, your property is worthless. It's been trashed. And so the unintended consequences of what they think they're doing to help the little guy just really spreads the misery everywhere.
Yeah, and this is the first time in our nation's history where we've actually had the federal government try to criminalize access to the courts. This has never happened before. And it should be troubling to all of us that the CDC has this kind of power, which it doesn't. But by their logic, if they have this kind of power to suspend evictions in order to combat a health crisis, what's to stop them from banning you from traveling more than 3 miles outside your home, or from visiting family members? Or if they get away with this, there's almost no limit to what they could do in the future.
Now, they're already trying to limit, as Mark and we were talking about earlier, our ability to travel more than 3 miles away from our home, because now they're coming out with these new electric cars by a certain date. But, the stuff that goes in behind all of that is just mind-boggling. Yes. What happens to the gasoline and diesel-powered vehicles? What happens to these car clubs? What happens to car racing? What happens to transportation, getting goods and services to the retailer so that you could have your bread and milk and eggs and whatever else you need on the grocery shelf? These truckers aren't going to want to pay these taxes. And they sure as heck don't want an electric vehicle.
And if I could, let me just follow on what Joel was just pointing out. When the federal government requires the automakers to include in the computer module that controls the vehicle the log of every mile driven, and then you coordinate that with the GPS to know where that was driven, then it's a very easy step from that for the government to say, for example, if we have rationing of gasoline, you can't drive more than 20 miles a day or 10 miles a day, whatever they decide. Whenever you have the government involved in observing access to services or access to any other activity that people typically need or want to do, then the government at some point is going to start trying to regulate that access. And there's no limit to that. There's no limit to it.
But they already do track us. If you've got a smart device, Google has your GPS wherever you go. They know when you went, where you went, how long it took you to be there, how long you stayed there. They're already tracking you on your smart devices, people. And what about Progressive and Allstate? These little modules you plug into your car that tells them that you're a safe driver. Oh, gee, you're saving a few bucks on your car insurance because you've got these little plug-in things in your car. But again, it's telling them how fast you're going, what type of driving you're doing, how many times you turned left or right, how long you stopped at the stoplight, how fast you were going, where you went. If they're not tracking you on your smart device, they will be tracking you on your car. If you don't have that module in your car right now, when you buy an electric car, you will have it. And
I hate to sound paranoid, but you also want to be very careful what you say around Alexa in your house.
Oh, geez. A true story, Mark. I went with a staffer from Mark Sanford when he was still a halfway decent congressman to the inauguration of Trump, and we stayed just 3 blocks behind the Capitol. Beautiful, beautiful view. But it was a Democrat that rented us the place for the night, and she had an Alexa, and we all cracked up as soon as we walked in. It's like, don't say anything that you don't want transmitted, because there was no way for us to know if it was on or off, if she was recording anything we were saying. So it is a true story. And you buy these smart refrigerators, smart washers, smart stoves. They also have a listening chip in there. So you're saying, refrigerator, tell me what's in here. Well, you're telling the government exactly what type of foods. And, oh, wait a minute, gentlemen, Joel, Mark, didn't the original Obamacare legislation that Nancy Pelosi didn't read, in both the House version and the Senate version, which I did read, state that they could have a person come to your house, a federal employee or contractor or whatever, knock on your door, go through your cupboards and refrigerator, and if they don't like what you bought and you have kids in the house, they can take the kids out of your care. Do you remember that part of Obamacare? Oh, yes. Do you remember that one, Joe?
Yeah, I'm not so familiar with that. But I look, and anytime you have these pieces of legislation passed, there's a lot of fine print, and we see that happening now with the infrastructure bill, thousands of pages of spending authority and power that's concentrated in the hands of Washington, D.C., and you see Republicans and Democrats scrambling to approve this without having actually read through the fine print. And without a doubt, we know that this is going to drive us further towards national insolvency. It's a big problem with politicians. Everybody wants their share to take home and brag and boast about, but they're not looking at the entirety of these packages to see how economically destructive it is.
Yes, Mark.
And forgive me, but my editor is calling me on the other line, and I have got to take it.
Okay.
Forgive me, but I've got to go.
All right. Check out Mark Tapscott at theepictimes.com. He's frequent. He is the Hill correspondent for the Epic Times. Talking about the government following us and trying to figure out what we're doing. It was Conrad Black that wrote this article. Have you remember hearing this one, that the FBI was telling family members and peers to report the tweets? And right now we're hearing that Amazon and Google are censoring. They're going through and reporting to government things they think might be offensive or insurrectionist. You with us, Joe?
I'm with you there. I'm not so sure. I'm not sure about all that. What I'm focused on right now are the economic consequences of the moratorium that we see in place, and the out of control federal spending on the infrastructure package that really is a Green New Deal in disguise. These are very real things that we should be concerned with, that Congress is trying to slip by us.
Now, where do we stand on this passing? Because I'm hearing that, people that you would think would be voting for it are mad because it's not going far enough, whereas those on the right are saying it's got too much in it. I'm hearing like less than 10% actually goes to real infrastructure. How does daycare fall into infrastructure? The Green New Deal, how does that fall? There's things in there that have nothing to do with infrastructure.
Yeah, well, you're exactly right. What we see with this scaled back infrastructure plan, they're trying to reach this compromise because they need 60 votes to pass it in the Senate. And so the proposal they're considering now is quite a bit smaller. It's so large. It's smaller than the $3.5 trillion overall package that the left wing wants. The problem with this is once this package passes with the 60 votes, the far left can come back by through what's known as the reconciliation process and pass all the other pieces with just 51 votes. And that's why we and others have been saying this is kind of a Trojan horse right now, because the Democrats and those on the far left, they want to federalize the national election, take away the power of states to implement voter ballot integrity laws, and they really want this Green New Deal. And that's what's going to be in these follow-up packages, that once this one passes with the 60 votes, the future ones will be able to push through with just 51. It's a Trojan horse, but there are a number of those who claim to be conservative that have now embraced this compromise.
And that's the shame of it all, because it will be passed one way or another, and the American people are not going to have a single thing to say about it. And the consequences from this bill that will come down the road are phenomenal. And I don't see us getting out of it. And it's funny, you mentioned trying to control the federal elections. Did you catch the congressional testimony on Saturday where my Representative Nancy Mace went after that Texas state representative?
I'm not familiar with this.
Oh, all right. Because she asked her a series of questions, each one asking, does it require an ID? And she went down the entire list, including flying on a private plane, which this congresswoman had done. Every single one of them needed ID. So Nancy goes, so why don't we need an ID to vote? And the congresswoman could not answer her at all. I mean, she tore her a brand new one. But anyway, I'm seeing we're running out of time. Last question I wanted to ask you, and this is something I've been harping on, the $15 minimum wage. They're trying to get that one through, and I kept on telling them, you do that, you're going to see businesses automate. Why would they pay $15 an hour to you when for maybe $2,000 or $3,000 a year they can have an automated machine do your job? It's going to kill employment, and it will kill businesses.
Yeah, raising the minimum wage in this way, it really harms those who it intends to help. People that are trying to gain on-the-job training, people that don't have maybe all of their education complete yet. These jobs are very important. These lower-paying jobs are very important to them because they learn on-the-job skills, and very few people stay in those jobs for long. You usually gain the skills and move up. But when you go ahead and you artificially increase that minimum, above what somebody actually can bring to the workplace in terms of value, you end up resulting in a lot of those individuals never getting that experience. They end up unemployed. They end up in a cycle of dependency. It's very unfair. It doesn't make economic sense. It harms businesses, and it also harms those workers who really need that on-the-job training. And look, when I was younger, I've worked at those minimum wage jobs. I worked at restaurants for $2.13 an hour plus tips, and I got that experience. I learned time management. I learned how to show up for work on time. These are valuable skills, and the politicians like to claim credit for hiking that minimum, but they're hurting a lot of people.
Yeah, well, there's another benefit to it because it teaches them social skills, how to deal with the public and customers, even if it's an angry customer, how to do it. So you can develop those skills to de-escalate situations better. It gives you interactive skills to make friends, to learn how to communicate better. There's a lot of other subliminal things out there that we can give to these young and older workers so that we have a more sociable society. Right now, we're at each other's throats because no one's exercising these skills. But it also comes down to helping the economy, too, at the same time.
You're so right. The best way to increase wages is to allow people to get the training and then to allow businesses to invest more in productivity growth and technology. We know that as technology increases, as businesses can employ the new technology, people produce more.
Right.
And workers get to share in that increase. It doesn't just go to those that own the business. We know that it is split between workers and between the business owners.
Exactly. And what these $15 minimum wages do is that everyone earns the same exact wage. Well, if Joe Blow in the next station is not doing any work, but he still gets paid $15 an hour, well, what the heck am I busting my butt for? So you kill the incentive to succeed.
No, you're exactly right. And there's study after study that show this to be true. When politicians step in and raise that wage, you price people out of the marketplace. Some people earn a little more, but you end up with some people that end up earning zero, and they're forced into government dependency.
And what does that do? It just increases our taxes. And recently, it was about maybe 6 or 7 years ago, local McDonald's had a bunch of people protesting for the $15 minimum wage. And I turned around to my husband and said, I give that guy 2 weeks. He's going to lock the front doors. He's going to tell everyone he's closed for renovations. He'll close down for 2 or 3 months until everything cools down. When he reopens, he's going to hire a lot less people because he's going to have kiosk stations in that McDonald's. And I was completely correct.
Yeah, you're right. It forces premature automation. Automation is great when it comes naturally, but in these instances, you allow that to speed up rather than giving the workforce time to adjust to it.
Exactly. And if anyone's going into a Wally World, that's a Walmart, recently, you'll find you may have 1 or 2 cashiers, and all of the other stations are self-checkout. Why pay the $15 minimum wage for a cashier when you could have an automated machine for 1/10 the cost of what you pay that employee? It benefits Walmart. They increase their profit margin, but it doesn't benefit the American worker.
Yeah.
Well, Joel, where can people find you?
You can find me at heritage.org. You can find me on Twitter at Joel Griffith. And I'm commentating quite a bit. I really always enjoy being on your show.
Oh, thank you so very much, Joel. And thank you for the hard work you do, and God bless. And tell Tom I said hi.
I will do, and have a great weekend.
You too. Joel Griffith. Check him out at heritage.org. Curtis, we got about 5 minutes left, and that's all we got for the rest of the day. We know that we're going to have Karen Watson back on next week. I haven't started putting anything together yet. But as usual, we'll have a usual guest from the Heritage next week. And I think that's all I got for today. Meanwhile, I'm going to turn around and probably put a couple of bullets into this machine and find out what the heck went wrong today.
Yeah, I'll see if I can get another guest, probably someone we haven't had in a while, like maybe Jennifer Carroll, governor of Florida.
Yes, and she sent me a really nice condolence card when Yanni passed away. That little email she sent me is very, very touching.
Oh, that was sweet of her.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Wow.
matter of fact, I'm still getting condolences cards in the mail. A couple more came in yesterday. So
good.
A lot of people are out there giving me love and support. But with that, I've got nothing left. I'm out of steam. But
Yeah.
I can get my little mouse to work. Oh, I hate this thing.
Well, hopefully we'll have a better start next week.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to end the show with the song by Gary Penn. He gave me permission to constantly use this. It's called Save America. And that's what we got to look at doing, folks. Save America. Good night. Until then, God bless. We stand for the flag and we kneel at the cross. Long for things I have loved and lost, and still believe in God we trust. Not too late.